Hello, I'm Julia Fisher. Welcome to the Olive Tree, where today we hear from Bassem Adranly, a Palestinian Christian living in Jerusalem who believes it's important for Arab Christians to understand their role in sharing God's heart for Israel and the Jewish people, and at the same time share the gospel with Muslim people. I met Bassem in Jerusalem recently, and he began by giving a Christian Arab perspective on the recent upheaval in the Arab world.
I never really thought of the West Bank since I got saved, but somehow in 2004, while I was praying with my wife, we both saw the same vision, and the vision was that we were in a big room, and on one of the walls of the room there was a big gate, like the gates of the old city. There were people banging on the gate. The room was without ceiling, like it was a room but the walls of a city or something. At the same time, I saw many cranes that were giving them food and supplies from behind the wall. And I saw some believers that I know in the church that were speaking to them through that gate. And then we both got the impression that somehow someone has to open the door, the gate. So I felt that somehow God is calling us to really open the gate. And it didn't seem very much easy from the vision. It felt like whoever is going to do it will be squashed from the multitudes that are behind. But so since then, we started to prepare ourselves for going to the West Bank. Since the day that I got saved, I got such a heavy burden of reconciliation between the Jews and the Arabs. And since then, I've been really praying about it with Jewish believers and asking the Lord, when would you really unite us together more? And so I was a bit confused. This seemed to be a little bit off what the Lord called me to do. And one morning while I was praying on Mount Zion, actually, I saw a vision of 5 pieces puzzle. And someone was trying to put them together, but they didn't go together at all. I didn't understand what does that mean. So I prayed more about it. I felt that the unity of the body with so much hundreds of pieces of puzzle that are missing, it will be an impossible case. So I felt that all the multitudes that are going to come from non-Christian background it is pouring into the unity of the body without I know it. So since then we went there and we saw that the Palestinian people are really very desperate for the Lord. I'm not exaggerating if I say that it's enough that they know that you are Christian. You'll find out that 50% of the people you come across, they will start talking to you about God. Now, half of those want to proselytize you to Islam, but half of them wants to know about Christ. So that's very encouraging. Of course, big percentage of those know the truth, but they are not willing to really take that step. That is really dangerous for them on 2 levels, on a religious level and also on cultural level and traditions and family and all of that stuff. So there are a lot of believers there. They need our help and our prayers. I know that somehow the land of Israel, Palestine, is a key place. It's like the lock that is going to open up the final release for God's work in the final days.
Can you tell me, Bassem, just a little bit about some of the people? I don't want you to name names, obviously you can't, but what sort of a situation are these people living in that you are in touch with?
Well, it began with our relief work, which means that most of the believers are really the poorest of the poor. But in general, to be frank, the situation of the Palestinian people are not as poor as Africa, for example. Yeah, and we have to put things into perspective. I know If a Palestinian will hear me now, he will be upset. But still, the situation is not easy. An average salary in the West Bank is like 1,200 shekels, which is like $300 to $400 a month. And you are talking about places that are in many areas of life exactly the same expense as Israel. So that thing made the rich people richer and the poor people poorer. Like, it's impossible to make a family there. If you don't own a house and you are not living in a village where things are a little bit cheaper, there is almost no way that you can do anything with your life. So economy, we don't have industry almost, and the PA is not very much planning to encourage agriculture and industry. They do encourage, but not enough relatively to the budgets that they receive. Politically also, I don't see any solution for the Palestinian people, really. As all the Arab countries, by the way, there will be no solution whatsoever. Like, I can see that the storms are happening in many Arab worlds, and I can see in the near future it may happen in the West Bank as well, maybe within months, that a big revolt against the PA will happen there. And really we don't know the solution politically. I could see the Palestinian people or the Arabic youth in general. Like when I see the dreams of all the revoluting youth in Egypt, for example, I see it in my spirit like a kid that is 5 years old. His dream is to become 40. And then someone comes to him and said, well, through the grace of the Lord, in 1 and 2 years you will be 40. It's just impossible. Democracy is a culture. It's not a political system. It's not like you go to Iraq, you make democracy. It has to grow from within. And in order for it to grow, there is no shortcut for time. So we need 2 generations for these youth to get their dream. Because what's going to happen is that a new government will be formed that will be somehow reflecting where the people at. Maybe in best case scenarios, it will be like from 5 to 10% better. It could be worse, of course, but it's nothing of what they are dreaming for. So there will be a great desperation in all the Arab world. And I feel also that there will be another wave of revolution will happen in Saudi Arabia and in Iran. And that will be the time where it will be the edge of a salvation wave that will sweep the Arab nation. And I'm not very much optimistic of what will be the outcome of this is. But the outcome will be as much as the church is prepared to receive. And I don't see the church is prepared yet. We pray for revival, but we are not prepared for it. Even imagine on just something simple. We don't have on the net, for example, Arabic commentaries for the Old Testament. Imagine such a simple thing for 300 million people. What are we doing as pastors? What are we doing in the Middle East here? We are not, as in Isaiah 54 says, prepare your tent, extend it and strengthen it, because you will be enlarged. We are not. Of course we are, and many are feeling that, and many are preparing, but it's not enough. And for most, we have to prepare ourselves as Christian background Arabs, believers, to open our hearts to the Muslim people. So that's a problem, we are so much from all the persecution and so on. We became so much closed within ourselves. And that's my prayer, that the Lord will give us a sensation of urgency and feeling that it's near. We have to be prepared. The restlessness, something, it's hard for me to express that, but I do really feel that. We are working on an open church project on the internet to prepare. So I write many things and I try to facilitate, for example, things to be translated. I wrote to many ministries if they are willing to facilitate that. I'm trying. I pray that also we would network together, because the kingdom is far way bigger than each one of us, and to leave our claims, our little kingdoms, and to really network together to build the kingdom together. And also in this land, I pray that we will open our hearts. I found out that many Christians, when they open their hearts towards the Muslim people, automatically their heart were open to Jewish people. It's like they go together, because throughout the history, really, we closed our hearts for both Isaac and Ishmael. We rejected the Jewish people, and also we isolated ourselves from the Muslims. I don't believe in literal descendants, but I do believe in spiritual descendants, and it's true. We really isolated ourselves from both. And I believe our calling as Christian Arabs in the Arab world is to embrace both. And that's a very unique calling. Pray that we really take our position and do what the Lord wants us to do at this time of history.
Bassem Adranly, an Arab Christian living in Jerusalem who cares as much for Jewish people as he does for the Arab Muslim people. He's a remarkable man. And you're listening to The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher. If you'd like to find out more and prayerfully support both Jewish and Arab believers living in the Holy Land, then let me tell you about the Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund. We're a small charity based in the UK. If you'd like to receive our free bi-monthly newsletter, please either visit our website www.olivetreefund.org, where you will also find articles, programmes and news about our next tour to Israel, or write to me, Julia Fisher, at the Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund, PO Box 850, Horsham, RH12 9GA in the UK. Join me at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.